Dennis Prager here. Thanks for listening to the Daily Dennis Prager Podcast. To hear the entire 3 hours of my radio show, commercial-free, every single day, become a member of Pragertopia. You'll also get access to 15 years' worth of archives, as well as the daily show prep. Subscribe at pragertopia.com. Hello, everybody. Dennis Prager here. Wonderful to be with you. Another university. I'd love to see a list, actually, compiled. Somebody should do it. This is the University of Pittsburgh. Racial minority students at the University of Pittsburgh recently had the opportunity to participate in a separate graduation ceremony to celebrate students of color. And this is the sad part. I take that back. There is no the sad part. But a particularly sad part and destructive part is that the entire mainstream media of the United States thinks that if you oppose graduations for students of color, that's racist. Not having separate graduations for students of color, that's not racist. I am more certain than ever. It's a certitude the likes of which I don't have on many matters. I have strong opinions on many matters, strong beliefs, but the level of certitude I have on this is really unparalleled in terms of values, positions, and the like. Truth is the most important value. You know how I extol the virtue of courage. Without courage, there's no possibility of goodness. I keep that belief. No courage, good cannot prevail. However, there are people who are courageous in the service of lies. Truth still is the most important thing, and that is the great sin, the evil of the left, is that it is a world of lies. You're racist if you desire that color mean nothing. You are anti-racist if you extol the importance of race. And I don't know how many of you are listening, but I would say that at least a third of you have at least one child who believes the lie. That if you have separate facilities, separate activities based on race, that is not racist. That is anti-racist. The event titled The Gathering is a special graduation ceremony to acknowledge and celebrate graduating students of color. That's actually the quote, according to The Pitt News. University officials said the event, which did not include white participants, is a, quote, chance to build unity. Racial unity is pure racism. I'd like to understand here. Explain why whites cannot have racial unity, but everybody else can. I am opposed to white racial unity, for the record. That's racist. But if black racial unity is good, why isn't white racial unity? So they have you coming and going. Logic and truth don't matter. Victim and oppressor matter. Because all whites are oppressors. Do you know who that damages? It damages white kids. There's no question that it damages society terribly. But do you know who is the greatest victim of this lie? Blacks. You are different, you are separate, and you are a victim. There is nothing worse to tell a human being than to believe that he or she is a victim. That's what therapists do. They should be honest and say, see us at X number of dollars per hour so that we can reinforce your victim status. Not all therapists do, but I would say at least half. Therapists I've talked to say 2/3. No, 3/4. It's a chance to build unity and community with one another. Office for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Vice Chancellor Clyde Pickett told the student newspaper. What would Clyde Pickett be doing for a living if he were not an equity, diversity, and inclusion official? You realize how many jobs there are? College graduates are looking for work.
It's an industry now.
No, it's an industry. I mean, what was the Stanford number was administrators equal the number of, what was it, students. Yeah. There is the same number of administrators as students. So what was it, like 1,700 or something? And they're all paid in the high fives and many sixes. So no, they're all, not every single one is in diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I would love the College Fix or somebody to do the research to give us an estimate of the amount of money paid out by these incredibly wealthy colleges in that arena. Why is black unity important? Why is that a virtue? I'll tell you why they made it a virtue, because black unity means black unity around woke or left-wing values. That's what it means. It also means black racial solidarity, but racial solidarity completely breaks down when it comes to a black conservative. So it really, let's not fool ourselves, it's about blacks unifying as victims, as regarding whites as oppressors, as regarding America as systemically racist, but because of the conservative world. It is systemically racist from the perspective of what the left does to blacks. Ultimately, the success of our students is our most important priority. So I think any elevation and acknowledgement of our students that allows for space. Space. I didn't think of that one. Space is another vocabulary of the academic left. What were the other words? Matrix? What is the thing? Inter what? Intersectionality. Is there a human living in America who has used intersectionality and not meant some left-wing idea? Has anybody ever said in a conversation to friends, the intersectionality of the Matrix leaves us space? Space. These people are cliches. What?
There are some numbers just for the University of Michigan.
There's numbers just for the University of Michigan? You put it up on IM?
Yeah.
Well, bless your soul. You're a good man. All right, this is very important. Let's see. Just the University of Michigan spends more than $18 million on DEI staff salary benefits, a report. So is it fair to say, how many universities are there? Now, not all of them have the money to spend $18 million. I don't even imply that. But there's at least 100. Is that fair to say?
That are spending that much?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
At least 100.
Yeah. Well, you think of all the Big Ten.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's basically $200 million. So if you include every university, conservatively, I think $500 million a year. is spent on diversity, equity, and inclusion at our universities. $500 million, or even more, or possibly less. Like $400 million a year. And it is not only wasted. If it were wasted, I would actually celebrate the wasting of money at universities, because they would have less money to spend on destructive things. It's not wasted. It is spent on people who will brainwash and indoctrinate your child to becoming a liar and not even know it. When running a business, your employees can create all kinds of interesting situations, like getting complaints because someone on the team always smells horrible. You better talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in Dennis Prager under podcast when you sign up. Spelled Bambi.com, Bambi.com. Type in Dennis Prager.
Whenever I'm down, I call on you, my friend. I call on you, my friend. I call on you.
I continue on the University of Pittsburgh issue. So there is also not only a students of color graduation. This is in addition to the regular graduation. It's a separate one for them. There is also a Latino. I wonder if they call it Latinx. Could you check that? University of Pittsburgh Latinx graduation ceremony. See if anything comes up. And that was on April 28th. That was separate from the students of color one, because we want to divide Americans as much as possible if we are on the left. LGBT students also had an opportunity to celebrate their community. What a transgender have to do with gays? How is that a community? Transgender and gay have nothing to do with one another. They can in any given individual instance, but most gays, not most, nearly every gay identifies with his or her sex. LGBT students had an opportunity to celebrate their specific community at a lavender graduation. Did you attend a lavender graduation at the University of Illinois? I can't see you at a lavender graduation. Not because of any hostility. Listen, I didn't attend my regular college graduation. I think I went to a movie.
That's funny. I didn't either.
You didn't either?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. You probably went to a baseball game.
I probably went to a movie too.
Yeah, huh?
I probably went.
Oh, you probably went to a movie too. Yeah, that's right. That's your thing. Both the Office of Inclusion and Belonging. Oh, that's a beautiful name. The Office of Inclusion and Belonging. Belonging, that's a new one.
No, it is a new one. It's very.
Yeah.
It's coming all the time.
Oh, now it's a big thing? You know why? Because they belong to nothing. There were so many things you belong to in American history. Some non-governmental organization. You belong to a club. You belong to a church. You belong to a synagogue. You belonged to a religious community. You belonged to an American group. You belonged to 4-H. You belonged to the Boy Scouts. It's endless. They've all been destroyed by the left. Now you belong to the left. It's an accurate term. The office of inclusion and belonging to the left. That's how we should refer to it. And a separate office of equity and diversity teamed up with Pitt Queer Professionals. PQP, the Pitt Queer Professionals. It's a truly lost civilization. Still want your kid to go to college? Ceremony is an annual ceremony, quote, is an annual ceremony, this is the announcement, celebrating the achievements of undergraduate, graduate, and professional students in the LGBTQIA plus community across all University of Pittsburgh campuses. Other universities have also held race or sexuality-specific ceremonies. The University of Chicago student group will host a specific ceremony for black graduate students in June. The event drew criticism from DePaul University professor Jason Hill, a black philosopher and political commentator. The universities are creating racists. Oh, my God. I want you to know, Jason Hill, I believe you added time to my life. The joy that I had in reading truth, and I kid you not, I have biofeedback. I feel that a happiness or joy-inducing rush just passed through my body. The universities are creating racists, and it's a black professor who's saying this. Out of students, because in effect it is painting white students as persons from whom blacks need to be separated, that whites are an intimidating presence. Have we ever had this professor on?
Yeah. Yeah, we know him.
We know him.
Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what's interesting? One of the other minorities on campus, the campuses are basically composed of minorities now, are Jews. Are there any Jewish graduation ceremonies? Or for that matter, Catholic? How many Catholics are on a campus? Identifying Catholics. How about a Presbyterian graduation service? Every single one of these separate ones is left-wing oriented. Well, that should include a lot of Presbyterians. But you see, the Presbyterian Church, like the non-Orthodox synagogues and the liberal Catholic churches, they don't produce young people. So the children of left-wing Christians and Jews are far more unlikely to identify as a Christian or as a Jew. Why bother? This is the state of the university at this time, celebrating the opposite of the American Trinity. E pluribus unum, in God we trust, liberty. Well, you know how they have shattered in God we trust and how they have shattered liberty. Now you see how they shatter E pluribus unum, from many one. Their motto, from many, many. Four members of a family were murdered in Texas. I suspect many of you have heard about this. And this happened. They were all Honduran immigrants. Is that correct? Imagine that, four members of a family. I think it was 5 people altogether.
It's not. I think they're all illegal immigrants.
Illegal immigrants from Honduras. But of course, the tragedy is the same whether they're legal or illegal. They were murdered, all members of a family. And the shooter, the murderer, this is a new interesting thing. Why don't they say the murderer? Why did they say the shooter? Did they say the stabber if a person does it with a knife? Isn't that odd? They never say the murderer or even the killer?
No.
It's the shooter?
Yeah.
Huh. And this is a conservative website. 5 people were killed, including a child. Shot his neighbors. Francisco Oropeza. Man had come to this country before. He was illegal, and he was deported 5 times and came back. It doesn't mean anything to be deported. You just come back. It's like you're given a free trip back to see your friends back in Mexico, if you're from Mexico, as he was. 2 of the women who were murdered, Diana Velázquez Alvarado and Julissa Molina Rivera, were murdered as they lay over their 3 children trying to protect them. The women also hid a 2-month-old baby under some clothes so the shooter wouldn't find him. The 4 children survived. Oh my God. The whole thing is beyond belief. The guy had been shooting a gun, and they said to him, "Could you keep it down? You know, the shooting is keeping our kid awake."
Yeah.
And he came in and murdered them.
Yeah.
No, but we don't have an issue with illegal immigrants, and I am in no way implying that he is typical of illegal immigrants. But the porous border, Horowitz has just done a new video on people's views of having a border. Well, was that in New York City that he asked people,
Yeah.
are borders racist?
Yeah.
And they all said yes.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to Ami later?
Not today.
Not
tomorrow.
today. Tomorrow?
Yeah.
And then he went down to Texas and he asked Hispanics. And they all said, "What, are you crazy? Of course you should have borders." You know what that reminds me of? A day I'll never forget. I was in the largest state penitentiary, the one in Louisiana. What was the name of that one again? Dash State Penitentiary, Angola. That's it, Angola State Penitentiary. Spent the day there, and I have a picture of this. I asked about 10 men in the prison for murder. They're in there for life. Would you raise your hand if you're for capital punishment for murder? And I had no idea how they would vote. 7 of them voted for capital punishment. Isn't that interesting? It's like these Hispanics who want the border closed. Somehow they think more rationally than the folks who are not in prison for life. He's still on the loose, this monster. And I'm mentioning that because in a better world, he would have a speedy trial, a fair trial, but a speedy trial, and be put to death. And to the usual question, "Oh yeah, Dennis, well, would you be prepared to kill him?" The answer is, of course. Of course I would. I'm not advocating something somebody else do on my behalf.
Did he factor in 20?
This poor family, they had just moved there. He's still on the loose. There's an $80,000 reward for him. I hope he doesn't murder more. That's my big worry. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Mike Lindell with MyPillow is launching the MyPillow 2.0. When Mike invented My Pillow, it had everything you could ever want in a pillow. Now, nearly 20 years later, he discovered a new technology that makes it even better. The My Pillow 2.0 has the patented adjustable fill of the original My Pillow, and now with a brand new fabric that is made with a temperature-regulating thread. The My Pillow 2.0 is the softest, smoothest, and coolest pillow you'll ever own. For my listeners, the My Pillow 2.0 is buy one, get one free offer with promo code Prager. My Pillow 2.0 temperature regulating technology is 100% made in the USA and comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Just go to mypillow.com and click on the radio listeners square to the buy one, get one free offer. Enter promo code Prager or call 800-761-6302 to get your My Pillow 2.0 now. Hello, everybody. One of the sea changes that the lockdowns, not COVID, the lockdowns caused. The lockdowns were horrific. They were overwhelmingly destructive. And I said so within 2 months. You can check the internet. The ability to think rationally is given to all humans, but very few use it. Passion and conformity are far more likely to be the origins of people's positions on things. Anyway, one of the changes is that people work at home. Some companies have now said, all right, come back to the office. A lot of workers are resisting it. So here's a good example of where I can learn from what is called collective wisdom. Have you started, or did you for a while, work at home? Is it a good thing, bad thing, middle? 1-8-PRAGER-776. I'm of two minds of it because I could see in some cases it being a tremendous help to a person because they, let's say, are raising children, and it gives at least one of the parents a chance to both work and take care of the kids. I can understand that. I know people who work at home, and it's worked out terrifically for them. They could live anywhere they want. They could live in an affordable home, rather than having to live in many cases downtown where there are not only no homes in general, but an apartment is very expensive. On the other hand, not meeting people on a daily basis, I have to believe for many people there is a toll paid, especially if they're single. What do they do on a regular basis to meet people? I don't mean meet people to marry, just meet people. 1-8-PRAGER-776, 877-243-7776. You know, I could broadcast, and I made this decision years ago, I could broadcast from anywhere I want, because I have the machinery to do so. I can broadcast from home, but I chose to come into the studio and be with people. If there is a solitary profession, I assure you it's talk show host. Right? I mean, you sit basically alone and you talk to people. And of course, I frequently do that on the road. But I chose, and it's a better show because I interact with people. Now, some of the people I interact with are troubled souls.
I was about to say that's the nicest thing you've ever said.
Yeah, he was about to say it was the nicest thing I ever said with him, and then just as he was about to say it, I said some of them are troubled souls. But troubled soul doesn't mean you're not a nice person. Of course it's better to interact with people. Why is that even debatable? So it's a mixed bag. I mean, obviously, if there were no advantages to working at home, it would be a non-issue. People would have clamored to get back to the office. But I have to believe that there is something beneficial to getting dressed nicely, which even that is dying, which is a very, very big price that the society is paying. Terrible price. But generally speaking, most people are dressed way more informally in the house than they are when they go to the office. Right? I mean, there are people who spend the day in I don't know, pajama bottoms. I don't know what it might be. And hopefully they would not go to the office wearing pajama bottoms and some t-shirt top. 1-8-Prager-776, how has it worked out for you? And do you agree, even if it's worked out for you, that society is paying the price? Of course, there's another price, but I can't say that I'm particularly saddened by it. I mean, I have sympathy for the businesses that have been terribly affected. But San Francisco, what was it? This major office building that was originally, $800 million is now $300 million or something? It was $300 million, and now it's what? $100 million? 30 million? I don't know. Anyway, it's lost a vast percentage of its equity because nobody's going to the office in San Francisco. So think of all the restaurants, forget the office buildings, just all the restaurants that no longer have customers. It's an interesting question. So does the person who works at home take a lunch break and go to a restaurant? I guess not. They probably eat at home too, right? Would that make sense? Or have it delivered, yeah. So you don't socialize that way either. You're not around people in the restaurant. You either have the food delivered or you make it yourself. But I can see it being advantageous if you're trying to raise kids. I assume, in any event. Interesting. This is an interesting one. Bellflower, California, and Mark, hello.
Good morning, Dennis. It's an honor to speak to you.
Thank you.
I've been listening to you for many, many, many years. Yeah, Dennis, the lockdown has created a lot of alcoholics. And what I mean by that is before the lockdown, I never would drink wine. And during it, I was introduced to it, and now I can't kick it. So I sought help. I'm a vet, and I went to the Veterans Hospital, and I was told by my primary care physician that I'm not the only one, that it's a lot of people that are addicted to alcohol now. So that's something that is negative as far as what it's done, and it's not helping society because I'm missing work. A lot of people are missing work, and I think it's a problem that needs to be addressed.
Wow. So you said you have friends to whom this has happened as well?
Yes. We during the lockdown, we would watch movies and just drink.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I hope you get the help and can recover from that. There is nothing good that came out of the lockdowns. It's amazing that people are not angry at Fauci and the CDC in general, and the NIH, at all of these epidemiologists and scientists who are fools true fools. And all of the social media that suppressed the dissenting scientists, like the Great Barrington Declaration from Great Barrington, Vermont. I wonder if the New York Times even reported its existence. Thousands of scientists against the lockdowns. Yeah, that makes sense. Sit around watching movies and drinking. Yeah. But he didn't die of COVID. That's what they'll say. We ruined his life, but he's not dead, as if that was the option. Yep, either lockdowns or death. We had lockdowns and we had death. And we had ruination and we had cancellation.
Give me lockdowns or give me death?
No, give me lockdowns and give me death. It's not give me lockdowns or give me death. How's it working out for you working from home? And let's see. It's funny. I don't know what to take, the pro or the con, but I'll try to vary it for the sake of honesty. Let's see here. Sugar Grove, Illinois. Hello. And that's Mike. Hello. Hi. Yes.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
I heard on the radio a couple of weeks ago about a woman calling her office to say that she can work from home on her computer. She wants to sell her house and move out of state. And they said, that's okay. We're letting you go because we're going to outsource your job to somebody in Pakistan.
Where did you hear this?
On the radio station. I drive back and forth from here to Indianapolis. And just one of those talk channels, that were on the same conversation.
I wonder how, I do, thank you for calling. I wonder how often that is happening now. Yeah, I didn't think of that. If you can work from home, why do we need you? We could get somebody working from a home in Karachi. I know, I hadn't thought of that. I'd like to know if anybody else has experienced that. That's fascinating. Newberry, South Carolina. Josh, hello.
Hey, great to speak with you, Dennis.
Thank
This
you.
is my theory on it. I knew some people that work from home, and I've dealt with people as far as trying to get customer service when it seemed like a lot of people, especially when they would answer phone calls, were working from home. And it was not the same as before as actually going in. And I think it all depends on the person. There's some people that are great self-starters and self-motivators that can get work done from home. And then there's other people that need constant supervision. And when they work from home, there's too many distractions there. They love it. Those are the ones that are fighting to not come back because, they don't have their boss breathing down their neck. They're doing things from home. They don't have a boss to make sure they only take a 30-minute lunch break and all that kind of stuff. So those are the ones that are fighting it the most. But I would be curious to see, and I know there's no way to really look at this, but I'd be curious to know what the production levels were for businesses that had their people working from home. And that last caller is exactly right. People need to learn how to value jobs in this country. It kind of reminds, if you don't want to go back to work, they will outsource your job. It's like the people that, demand $15 to $20 an hour to work at McDonald's. Well, that's all well and good until McDonald's automates everything and puts you out of a job. So, it's
what is your work?
I'm a truck driver. I drive a log truck here in
So you work from home.
No, not at all.
Your home is your truck.
We didn't close down throughout the whole thing.
No, everybody thinks of you as national heroes. That's not an issue. Yeah, that I don't know how that can be assessed, productivity. That's a great question. Are people as productive? Maybe they're more productive. I have somewhat of an agenda. I think that it's healthier for people to get out of the house, but I also think that it is better for example, that you homeschool your child, and if you can work from home and not go to an office, you might be able to homeschool and work from home. So keep your job. So I am torn on the issue. I see a lot of benefits in both directions. But I think people need to be aware of the price. I also, to be honest, I don't know why people just don't get tired of being home 24/7. And if you work at home and then you dine at home, are you going to go out to a movie? People don't do that either. They watch movies at home. But I don't know. All right, let's see here. Here's a pro home, Paramus, New Jersey, and Richard. Hi.
Hi, Dennis. Long time, first time.
Thank you.
So I'm split myself. I do understand the law of unintended consequences with regards to commercial real estate that we're seeing across the country, although I don't know that down the road that might not be a very good thing, converting it over to since the housing shortage in this country is so terrible, perhaps some of that could be repurposed. But what is never mentioned, you said self-starters, with high-producing employees, and yes, any corporation can keep track of your productivity through keystroke logs on your computer to see whether or not you're working wherever you are working, number one. Number two, for someone like my wife, who is a vice president and pushes 60, sometimes 70-hour weeks to do her job and keep getting promoted over the course of the last 5 years, the remote work is a real boon to her because she's on the bad box at 7 in the morning. She's up at 5:30. She doesn't log off until 6 or 7. And then the upside to the health is we're buying whole foods at the supermarket and making a lot of our own meals, not going out and eating lesser foods. And so there's an upside there. And then you also are not, at least to date, I haven't heard anybody mention the fuel savings. She loses, we're hybrid now, so she loses an hour each way commuting to the office in a car. Now we have a gas sipper for that, but still, she's not working. When she's an hour each way, that's 2 hours a day, sometimes more, that she could be productive, and she is when she's remote. I'm a little bit
you've made a good case.
And finally, rural opportunity. Red state people are getting hired to jobs that used to only go to people that were within, say, an hour of some major office building. We're lucky enough to have a home in rural Pennsylvania, and my wife lucked onto someone who is now making tri-state money a mile up a dead-end road, 3 miles out her front door to the next road. Her kids are grown, and she found somebody that's fantastic and loving it.
All right. Well, that's a powerful case. He just built his case one after another for its advantages. One of the reasons I'm torn on the issue of staying home and working from home is that I think there's a human price paid if you do that, but the social price is actually in keeping with what I want to see happen. See, the movement of people to rural areas, the movement of people to conservative states is a good thing. The downtown, every metropolitan area is left-wing, and the weakening of the metropolitan areas is a good thing because of what I believe are the toxic values that come from there. So I am torn. This is an interesting example, but let me finish that sentence. An interesting example of a micro-macro difference. On the other hand, there may not be, in many cases, a micro price. It might actually work out for you individually. But we have to acknowledge as well the decline, or in some people's cases, the death of the social culture of the office is a factor. People are relating to people far less than I would say in American history. Their entertainment is at home. They order in. They work from home. That's a lot. They don't work with others. They don't watch movies with others. They don't dine with others.
They don't shop. They order from Amazon.
That's right. Good point. They don't shop with others. You order online. It's got to be some price paid. Okay, yep. Yeah, here's another example of a price paid. Mesquite, Texas. Paul, hello.
Greetings from America, Dennis, also known as Texas.
Correct.
A while ago, I had the occasion to make at least a half a dozen calls to a Walmart service regarding the same transaction. And one of the early ones, I heard a dog bark. I said, did I just hear a dog? He said, well,
great.
Yeah, I'm working from home. Well, where's home? Columbia. And so I started asking, and virtually all of them were in another country, and almost all spoke very, very good English.
Well, the very fact that you asked where are you working from shows that you thought you could converse in English easily. Yeah, that's very interesting. Colombia, you heard a Colombian dog bark calling Walmart.
And, oh yeah, the transaction was never resolved.
Yeah, well, okay, that's a totally separate issue. Yeah, I would like to see data on that as well. How many American jobs have been lost because of remote work? I have to believe, from the employer's position. What does he care if your remote is in Texas or your remote is in Colombia? That's right. Wow. Alvin, Texas, the famous Tom of Alvin, and I mean it. He is famous.
Good morning, Dennis. So I have mixed thoughts about the lockdowns, but overall it's been good for me. And my wife said that she really enjoyed having me home full time. So in my company, we were home full time for basically 2 years, and now the extent is to return to the office half time. So there are a lot of people that are upset about that. But the way that I view it is that working from home was a blessing, and returning to the office is a removal of a blessing rather than adding of a curse.
Oh, that's intelligent, which I'm
now,
not surprised.
Having said all of that, if I were working in an office with Alan Estrin and Sean McConnell, I'd be there every day.
That is hilarious. That is true. That is classic Tom of Alvin wit. I wonder if his wife appreciates his wit. I'm not kidding. We know Tom of Alvin. He's a regular witty observer of this program. Alan stepped out for a moment, so Tom in Alvin, Texas said he's very happy to work home. His wife loves having him there now full time, but if he had Sean McConnell and Alan Estrin in the office every day, he would come in every day. That's an interesting thought. Total insult to everybody else who works on the show, but Alan actually smiled. Okay, Sean is asking. That's a victory, Tom. Tom, you're one of 8 people in the life of Alan Estrin who made him smile. That's impressive. Hello, everybody. Dennis Prager, The Ultimate Issues Hour, third hour every Tuesday. Some great issue of life.
Getting close.
I have a verse from the Bible that even if you are an atheist, you will find fascinating and completely relevant, in my opinion, to our time. It's a provocative idea that I would like to offer, and I'm merely citing it because I want you to understand that 3,000 years ago, there was an insight that is so completely relevant to today, and one that very few people think about on the race issue in the United States. So, this is a remarkable thing. There it is. What is it? 23, 11? Is that correct? 23:7, correct. Yeah. So listen to this. Here's a law in the Bible you probably never recall or never heard of to begin with. Do not hate an Egyptian, for you are a stranger in his land. Okay. So a law was given to the generation that escaped slavery not to hate Egyptians, their slave masters, who not only were their slave masters, but at some period threw baby boys into the Nile to drown. Do not hate an Egyptian. What is my point? Why is it relevant? Do you think that it would be nice if there were voices in America that said, do not hate a white? What do you think? 1-8-PRAGER-776. If you're black, it would be of particular interest to get your call. I believe that such a proposition to black America would be extremely helpful. And you would have a biblical basis, though, of course, the Bible doesn't have nearly the clout today that it did 100 years ago, or even 50 years ago. Nevertheless, it's really something. The Israelites escape Egypt, and one of the first rules they have is do not hate an Egyptian. They're not asked to love them. Well, they're asked to love the stranger, but that's a separate issue. But they're not asked to love them. But for that matter, you're not asked to love your parents. 1-8-PRAGER-776, 877-243-7776. Do you think that it would be beneficial if there were voices saying that to black America? Second, is it worthy of saying? Maybe you'll say, what, are you kidding? Whites deserve all this hatred. And it is. It's the left espouses hatred of whites daily. Every white is a racist is as hateful a statement as you could make. I can't think of a more hateful statement to a group than every one of you is a piece of crap. Can you? Because a racist is a piece of crap. I believe that. It is an amazing thing what you can say about whites and then get tenure at a university. Whereas if you defend whites, you are lost, baby. And I mean lost. So here is a challenge from a 3,000-year-old text. So my question is there any voice that is saying this to black America? B, does it need to be said? Is it fair to say it? Does it need to be said? 877-243-7776. Did I get that melody right, Sean? Do not hate an Egyptian. It is an amazing rule for people who just left slavery. But wouldn't you think that if it's applicable to a people who just escaped slavery, were just liberated, it's many more times applicable to people who were liberated, let's see, 60 years ago? About 160 years ago, a little less. And, by the way, liberated by whites who died in the hundreds of thousands in a war over that very issue, slavery. This is a great example of the relevance of the Bible to modern times. Most people don't even know it exists. Just in case you're curious, by the way, and I'll bet some of you are, it's Deuteronomy. And incidentally, I might note that my commentary on the book of Deuteronomy is the most recent of my Rational Bible series. It is meant to be life-changing in the best sense, my series of the Rational Bible. Deuteronomy just came out most recently. I'm now working on Numbers. And then Leviticus. Deuteronomy 23:7. Do not hate an Egyptian. Wow. Do not hate a white. Is there a single voice in this country saying don't hate whites? Seriously, isn't that something when you think about it? If a white says it, he's called a racist or a white supremacist. If a black says it, he's called an Uncle Tom.
Larry Elder, Brandon Tatum.
Yeah, well, Brandon Tatum, Larry Elder. That's true. No, that's fair. That's very fair. And so in the L.A. Times, they called Larry Elder the black face of white supremacy. I would say that in a sense, that is what makes a black a dissenter. Just saying, don't hate whites. That's enough to have you loathed by the left and by the left-wing institutions such as those in the black community. It's just that alone. Hey guys, we really don't have a reason to hate whites. It is an amazing thing. All right, let's see here. Okay, let's go to Carl in St. Paul, Minnesota. Hi, thank you for calling.
Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Good, good.
Long-time listener, love your show, love what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to move on and disagree with you on this because the way that I read Deuteronomy is that applying to the Israelites as guests, and black Americans are not guests. And the minute you start to diminish our role by calling us guests, you're going to lose people. You lost me.
Who said that the Israelites were guests? They were slaves.
You read Deuteronomy again?
Yeah.
Right. But what the Bible is saying is don't hate them because you're guests in their land. Is that right?
No,
it's right?
Okay, I'll give you the entire sentence, so maybe that will help. I'm not sure. Do not hate an Edomite, a group with whom they had battles, for he is your brother, because they were related ancestrally. Do not hate an Egyptian, for you are a stranger in his land. And the reason for the addition, as I understand it, is there repeatedly, one of the few laws constantly repeated in the Torah is you shall love the stranger because you were strangers in the land of Egypt. So you can identify with being a stranger and being mistreated. Please don't mistreat the stranger in your land.
Okay, the translation version of the Bible I had said guest. You're saying stranger.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, because I need to talk to you because I want to persuade you. It's a rare time I say that. Hello, everybody. Ultimate Issues Hour. There's a verse in the Bible, Deuteronomy, do not hate the Egyptian, which is an amazing, amazing statement given that it was given to people who had just left hundreds of years of slavery in Egypt. And I'm saying that I wish that there were voices saying the same thing to black America, do not hate the white. So Carl is differing, and do you now understand that the Israelites were slaves, not guests?
Yes, I do. I'm glad that you clarified that. I'm still a little bit unclear about whether that prohibition applies specifically to the Israelites and their condition, or is it generally applicable to people who are enslaved? And
That's
then come
right.
out of
I
slavery?
think, yes. By the way, I would have no issue as a Jew if somebody said, do not hate the Germans.
Based on that verse.
Based on that verse.
But the condition of those people was they left that land, correct?
Well, yeah, God. Well, the story is that God and Moses took them out.
Well, that's not our case. We haven't been taken out of this land.
Yeah, well,
but
you were taken out of slavery, and listen, no Egyptian fought for the Israelites to be free, whereas plenty whites fought for blacks to be free. So, if anything, the whites deserve less enmity than Egyptians did.
That very well may be the case. I'm just not sure if this applies to a group of people who emigrated, left, and now we're on their own feet. Talking about strangers, don't hate the strangers who enter into your land because you were strangers.
Right.
And that's not really the case. That's not really the case for Black Americans. We did not emigrate, get on our own feet, have our own thing, and now we're being admonished not to hate others because we were enslaved.
Right. The parallel isn't with how they got there. The parallel is with this being enslaved. That's how I read it.
The precondition of the admonition is that you've emigrated.
No, the precondition of the that's an interesting read. I've never thought of that. I don't think it is the precondition. I think the precondition is you were slaves. Now you're free, but I want you to stop hating them because you've left the bondage.
Understood.
All right, thank you. You're a pleasure. So I repeat my theme. I wish that there were voices, in fact, religious voices, but secular voices just as much, saying Black Americans do not hate the white. That's a big one, and this is a very big deal in the Bible, or from the Bible. It's a big deal that people don't know about. Stan on the Big Island in Hawaii. Hello.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you. Oh, can you hear me, my friend?
You're a little hard to hear there, so just speak up a little.
Can we change the subject, Dennis, please?
I'm sorry. No, we can't. That's. Forgive me. I'm sorry. Okay, we'll try to take you on Friday. This is the subject, and I really do want to discuss it. It's a very important one. Okay, let's go to Tom in Philadelphia. Hello.
Hey, Dennis. How you doing today?
I'm well.
I just heard you said as a Jew you wouldn't hate Germans, but is it okay to hate Nazis?
Yeah, because I hate Ku Klux Klanners. I hate.
But
I
you're
hate.
not
I
supposed
do
to hate
hate
anybody. The Bible says, really.
No.
I mean,
not.
And so you think the people that were enslaved and killed, like that, that's not the same? No.
Wait. Okay. So there are two separate
As
subjects.
the Jews, like what the Egyptians did to the Jews, that's not the same as what the Nazis did?
Right. It's a no. So what you're? It's a very interesting. That's a very good question. So there are two, or at least two issues here. At what point do you stop hating the people who did evil? And you and I would agree if a Jew today, 3,000 years later, hated Egyptians because they were enslaved 3,000 years earlier, it would be ludicrous. Do we agree on that?
Correct.
Okay, so the issue then is the time one. But you changed the subject. I'm not saying this as a criticism. I just want you to be aware. There are three. You've raised three subjects: hating Nazis, hating anybody, and hating the Egyptians. So let's go to the Nazis. Yes,
Okay.
I hate people who espouse cruelty and evil. So and there is no admonition to your second point that you can't hate anybody. In fact, there is an admonition: those of you who love God must hate evil. It's true. It's hate evil. It doesn't say hate evildoers, but nevertheless, it's hard to hate evil, and I don't see any admonition to love evildoers.
And just one question, like on the Nazis, like in Ohio this past weekend, the Nazis were protesting against the transsexuals out in Ohio. Who do you side with that?
Well,
Because they are
it's not. Wait,
Nazis,
okay,
they're
it's not
self-proclaimed
hard
Nazis.
to say two sides are wrong. I don't find
So
that
what side
morally
is evil?
complex.
The transvestites?
No,
or
no,
the Nazis?
no. The trans people are not evil. The trans ideology is evil. Or
Even for
let's put it
adults?
this way: leads to evil. It isn't in and of itself, but the idea, some of it is evil. That I will have a minor girl who says she's a boy and have her breasts cut off. That's evil. If that's not evil, I don't know what is.
I understand that. So do you hate Nazis? Just bottom line.
Yeah, I do hate Nazis.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day, Dennis.
Okay, thank you. You know what? That should be a recording. Do you hate Nazis? Yeah, I do. Okay, have a nice day. What am I supposed to think about people who would like to reopen Auschwitz? To exterminate human beings because of their ethnicity or religion? Yeah, I'm glad I chose this topic. It obviously, at first, has produced some very intelligent challenges. And his challenge was a good one. These people had just been enslaved, maybe 2 generations later, but why were they told not to hate Egyptians? I'd like to offer a thought on that when we return. Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here. I've taken a verse from the Bible. My latest commentary of the Bible is on Deuteronomy. This is Deuteronomy 23:7. Do not hate an Egyptian. So the Jews, the Israelites, told right after getting out of Egypt, don't hate Egyptians. It's a remarkable law. Most people are completely unaware of its existence, and I am raising it because I wish that there were voices today saying to black America, don't hate the white, or don't hate a white. That would be a great example of using the Bible to give a really, really needed message today. So the issue was raised by, I think, the last caller. Among the issues he raised, given that they had just escaped horrible conditions of slavery, why were they told this? I mean, because I had said earlier, when I was asked about the Germans, and I volunteered that I don't hate Germans as a Jew, but what about the generation of Jews that had just been delivered from the Holocaust, the handful that survived the extermination of Jews? Well, I'll tell you this. Viktor Frankl had been in a concentration camp, and he lost relatives or murdered by the Nazis for being Jews. The great psychoanalyst, one of whose books, is one of the 10 that most influenced my life, Man's Search for Meaning. And he was asked, do you hate the German race after World War II ended? And he said, no, there are only two races, the decent and the indecent, which is my motto in life. I divide the world between the decent and the indecent, not between any other groups. That's my biggest division. I think it's God's biggest division as well. So the question remains: when are you permitted? You're permitted to hate people who are doing horrible evil to you. I know there are those who, of course, cite Jesus, love your enemy. I don't think he meant it in terms of the evildoer. I think he meant in private life where you have a feud with somebody. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he would have said to the Jews during the Holocaust, don't hate Nazis. I don't know if he would have or wouldn't have. I think he would not have, but obviously that's just my assumption. But my direct answer to that question is they had escaped slavery and the Egyptians had paid a steep price. I think that's a big factor in the immediacy of not hating the Egyptians' law. Okay, let's go to Cleveland and Tom. Hello.
Hello, Dennis.
That's right.
Hey, one topic, I hope I'm not too far off your topic, but nobody ever mentions that the descendants should really be grateful that their ancestors were brought to the United States, to America.
Well, you'll be hated for saying that, and I'll be hated for not taking issue with you. However, before the hatred begins, I should like to note to everybody that there is a book by a very important black reporter. I don't know if he's still operating for the Washington Post, Keith Richburg. And this book made this point many years ago, 2009. It was published, Out of America, A Black Man Confronts Africa. And needless to say, just like my caller is not defending slavery, but he's saying that the descendants of the slaves, in effect, have lucked out living in America. How many black Africans want to move to America today? How many millions? 4 million blacks from the Caribbean and Africa have moved to America. I'm not talking about slaves. Out of America by Keith Richburg. Dennis Prager here. Thanks for listening to the Daily Dennis Prager Podcast. To hear the entire 3 hours of my radio show, commercial-free, every single day, become a member of Pragertopia. You'll also get access to 15 years' worth of archives, as well as the daily show prep. Subscribe at pragertopia.com.